Week 5 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I look to drop this week. The first guy, Marcus Mariota of the Atlanta Falcons. Mariota, the first 3 games of the season, he looked pretty good as a decent fantasy option, but he totally fell off in Week 4 versus Cleveland. And now Week 5, a tough matchup at Tampa Bay after coming off a tough loss versus the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, this defense wants to get back on track, and they're going to take it out on this Atlanta Falcon team. So the last few games here for Mariota, Week 2 at the Rams, 196 pass yards, 2 touchdowns in that ball game, 16 rush yards, a 2-point conversion, 2 windows, a fumble loss. Week 3 at Seattle, 229 pass yards, a touchdown, an interception, 4 rushing yards, a touchdown, a fumble loss. And then Week 4 versus Cleveland, he didn't do anything, 139 pass yards, an into and 3 rushing yards. So right now, he's got good weapons in Kyle Pitts and Drake London and Cordell Patterson out of the backfield. But right now, he's just not a guy you could count on week in and week out. And the next 2 weeks with tough matchups, and right now, he's not throwing the football a lot, so he's an easy drop this week. He had a few weeks where he had some fantasy relevancy as Marcus Mariota, where he was relevant for some owners, but now it's time to drop him. Next guy's Carson Wentz of the Washington Commanders. I mentioned Wentz as a drop last week, and a guy to bench as well in the last 2 weeks here. He really hasn't done anything, is Carson Wentz. Week 5, I know he's got a middle-of-the-pack type of matchup versus Tennessee, but the problem is this offensive line does not cover or block pass rushes at all, and Wentz, he's been running for his life like he has over the last few seasons, which it was with the Eagles, the Colts, and now he's doing that here with the Commanders. So the first 2 weeks of the season, he got off to monster fantasy games with over 30 fantasy points in those ball games. And then week 3 and 4, like I said, pass rush of Philly and the Dallas Cowboys really stopped him in his tracks, and he didn't do anything. Week 3 versus Philly, 211 pass yards, 22 rush yards, a fumble loss. In Week 4 at Dallas, 170 pass yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I think Tennessee's defense is not better than Dallas and the Philadelphia Eagles. But right here, Carson Wentz, I just don't see him getting the job done in this one versus Tennessee. Maybe 15, 20 fantasy points at most. And he's a guy you just can't trust right now. There's better options like a Jared Goff on the wire, Geno Smith, even a Teddy Bridgewater maybe with his matchup at the New York Jets and the weapons he has on that Dolphin offense, is a guy you could consider over Wentz this week. And the third and final quarterback I look to drop this week's Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. So right here, it's not about fantasy football. It's about this guy being healthy and living normal, because that was some hit. And just to see him freeze up the way he did obviously wasn't fun and a good thing at all here. So surprisingly, he took the flight home with this Dolphin team. But who the hell knows what's going on with the rest of his body and his brain. After taking 2 hits 2 weeks in a row, he should have never played in Week 4 after coming off the field limping and wobbly in Week 3 is too. And then Week 4 getting tossed, and he was just carted off the field. So right here, too, well, we know he had that monster fantasy game, over 50 fantasy points in Week 2 with Baltimore with 469 pass yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 windows. And then Week 3 versus Buffalo, not a great game, 186 pass yards, a touchdown in that one. And then Week 4 at Cincy, they were throwing the football and getting it going early, 110 and an into. But right now, no timetable for his return. They're going to take their time with him, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if news comes out later on that he's out for the season or whatever the case may be here with Tua. So right now, if you got other quarterback options and you don't want to wait on Tua, rightfully so, he's a guy I would drop. But right now, you could also stash him on your IR. But if you definitely need a spot and your IR's filled or whatever the case may be, he's a quarterback to drop this week. So that's a few quarterbacks I look to drop here for Week 5 of the fantasy football season.